Okay, hi everyone and welcome. My name is Catherine Horaire. I'm a business and PR strategist for artists and creative entrepreneurs and also the founder of The Artist Entrepreneur. I'm very excited to introduce you today so that you can actually meet someone who's very special and dear to my heart. Maybe you've met her on the Artist Entrepreneur Network. Her name is Shauna Bennis. She also works under the public persona Cat the Pillar. She's a multi-passionate artist who is dedicated to supporting other creatives on their journey as they face resistance from their environment and more commonly from within themselves. And that I know a little bit about. And I'm excited, right, to have Shauna here today to tell us about her journey as a visual artist, but also how her journey to really discovering who her ideal collector is and how she's started building relationship with them. Well, first identifying who they are and then building relationships with them, because she has done this in a very genuine and authentic way, and that feels right for her, and it has translated into great success. So I'm excited to have her. Thank you for being here. Welcome, Shauna.
Hi, Catherine. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
I'm really happy to have you. So, well, first, I think our audience, right, the artists who are listening, to get a better, before we jump into the ideal collector part, which is the topic of our conversation today, maybe you can tell us a little bit about who you are so that we can better understand later how you came about finding your ideal collector and working with them. But tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and most importantly, why you do it.
Okay. Oh, it's a lot of questions.
Yeah, let's take them one at a time. So tell us a little bit about you and your art, and also the fact that you've committed to supporting other creatives.
So my story starts very early. So I've been an artist since I can imagine. I think that most artists start with that story, but I particularly remember it started with Sailor Moon when I came over to Europe. So I was about 6 or 7 years old, and that was the beginning of my artist journey. And the thing was, I grew up without an environment that knew how to deal with a creative person. And I feel that there's a very distinct personality or experience scala that goes with being creative. And my environment didn't know how to deal with that, and didn't know, the things that happen. So I think there's a process here, and for me was that I was really passionate about creating. Then I discovered everything I was doing wrong, and this is now with the teenage angst phase, where I started doubting myself and started reading all these how-to books, and all these tutorials where literally 99% of what I'd been writing or drawing was not good in the eye of those books, and that feedback. And I'd compare myself to artists who were probably in their 40s or 50s, and I was 14, but I felt I had to be that good. And these are really simple, stupid things, and nobody was there who could have warned me of that. So I lost a lot of time then, because I fell into a real artist block that lasted for 6 years, and it could have been prevented. And that's what really started then my passion of supporting other creatives and guiding them with my journey, and being a really great, like a co-pilot to their journey, and helping them see that there are so many things that we all experience, and that is not an individual failure or inability to be creative.
I think a lot of artists can relate. Well, first to the fact that they weren't necessarily in an environment that was Well, Shauna, I think a lot of artists who are listening can relate to a few things you just mentioned, because I know that I hear a lot of stories like that, right? And a lot of artists feel like they're isolated and alone because they don't have an environment that's conducive to creativity, right? They don't necessarily have family or friends who support them, but it's not that they don't support them, they don't just understand. They simply don't understand, right? And the other thing you said that I'd love for you to maybe give us a little more, if you're willing to share, but this 6-year block that you had, right? Because I hear artists and I feel I'm so sad when I hear that, you know, something happens, a challenge, as a comment, and then all of a sudden there's a block and it takes years to go back to creativity. Even sometimes artists never come back to it. So tell us how you were able to just say, enough, I'm going back to art.
Okay. So the first thing that needs to be cleared as well is that, as you said, that having no support doesn't mean that the environment is not supportive, but that, as you said, they have no idea of how to support you properly. And if you don't have other people who are experiencing the same, existence of pain that is sometimes being an artist, they will not get it. And also, in our society, art is still very much struggling to be seen as something of value, particularly as an artist, that when you draw, that is doing your work. I know that a lot of artists feel that when they draw, it's not really work. So it comes easy to them, but it comes easy to them after 15 years of practicing. But still, they think, this is easy to me, this cannot be valuable work. And this goes then into how they price their work, how they feel about their work, how they feel about themselves. And of course, then an environment that doesn't get that will just emphasize that feeling of, it's a nice hobby, it's a nice pastime.
Yeah, it's just then you're looking for, and then we're going to all the mindset of it, but then it just becomes like a never-ending loop where everything becomes proof. Everything that happens in your life is just proof that what you're doing is not real work, right? So you're looking for proof without even knowing it. So then you're like, okay, well, when I'm creating art, what am I really doing? I should be doing something that's real work because that's what other people are expecting from me. But really what you were meant to do is to create the art, to just express yourself through your creativity.
Exactly. And I think mindset here is exactly the word, or the key to my block and how I solved it, because what got me into my block was mindset, and what got me out of my block was mindset as well. So what happened was that I would compare myself to other artists, and I expected myself to be better than I was and to be able to create better than I was. And I forgot that everything happens in layers. So you do not write the perfect novel in one go. You write it over many drafts, and it's the same for art. You go through so many phases of a piece, and I expected myself to do it perfectly on the first go. And I know that a lot of creatives struggle with that they feel they should be doing the same. So they have this real aversion against going through many failures in order to then, chisel out exactly what they wanted.
Yes, and it's surprising because we would never expect that from anyone else in our lives. We would never expect a great chef to have the greatest recipe ever the first time or within the first year of, cooking. Or we would never expect an Olympic athlete, right? And any athlete to be Olympian level the first few times they trained, right? So any field, you need to get to a certain point. You just simply need to practice. You need to persevere. You need to be consistent, whether you're an athlete, an artist, a chef, right?
Exactly.
Even an accountant, right? So why is it that artists feel that it's not for them, or they're not good enough, and they're always questioning themselves, right? It's a question, it's mindset. And I think if we can turn that to the positive and say, well, questioning myself and questioning my work is a good thing, because that's what drives me to excellence and getting better.
Exactly. And I think what is important as well is to stop treating art and creative work as if it was something precious, because we do have this kind of art is awe-inspiring, and we have galleries full of art, and it's this beautiful result. And so we feel that the process has to be beautiful as well. And that's just not the case. And I think as soon as you let go of that expectation, it already makes creating so much easier, because all you need to do then is show up to do your work and not show up to create the best piece of your entire lifetime in one sitting. And
Yeah.
that was a big thing. And then, so the block continued then, where I just had that feeling, what's the point? Why should I even bother if I can't be that good? Whereas the truth of that was not that I couldn't be that good, but that I had lost the will to work to be that good. And it took me a while then to get into it again and to realize that you don't always have to feel motivated, because even when artists are in a block, every day you feel the yearning to create. And if you're not binging on tutorials, or if you're not buying 100 books on writing while never writing, there's some form that you're constantly craving the creative process while you're cutting yourself off from it. And so one way to turn that around for myself was to say, you don't have to be a happy artist. You know, you can sit down and feel tortured, but still show up. And over time, that attitude helped me to get in again. And it's like with everything, at first you have no idea. Then the second day, you're like, oh, I still have no idea. But after 2 weeks, you have so many ideas, you probably couldn't do them in a year. And that's how inspiration works. And I think it's necessary to re-immerse yourself again in the things you love, that you love. So go back before the block and reread the novels that you felt passionate about. Look at the series you loved. Go to the museums or things that gave you joy, and start collecting those moments of inspiration again. And that's how I got out of it. Plus, strategically dismantling all the stupid things I thought about what it meant to be an artist. And that's why that's my big passion in helping other artists, because I'm at a point where I have such a long way to go still, but I already have a lot of foundations down that can help other people as they are struggling with the same things.
Yeah. And I mean, and I don't like to use the word successful, because success means it means different things to each people you speak to. But, artists that I know who are mid-career, who have built careers with their art, they all say the same thing. When you're ready to put your work out there, you can't wait for inspiration to connect with your audience and start selling. You just need to do the work. So tell me about how the transition came, that you went from, being unblocked, exploring the work that you want to do, getting always better and better at it, and then being ready to be visible with it. Because I know that a lot of artists tell me, I'm just not ready. So how did you know that you were ready? I'm putting you on the spot here. Or maybe we never know that we're ready. Maybe we never feel ready, right?
Yeah, I think being ready can be something that can take years or 2 minutes. Again, this is a mindset thing. It's when you decide that you're ready to be the kind of person who it is necessary to be to have what you want. So I also feel that just because you're an artist or a creator, that doesn't necessarily mean you should be or have to be an entrepreneur. I think wanting to be an artist in business is a very conscious choice. And I think that makes all the difference, because if you are an artist entrepreneur, that's when you need to start thinking about target audience. That's when you need to start thinking about, okay, this is no longer I just wait around and draw when I want to, but I actually have office hours. I need to really regulate how I create and make this a viable business. Whereas if you're doing it for the joy, I think it's really great to keep that as well. So any artist who would want to know, when are you ready, I'd say, well, when are you ready to be a professional about your artist practice? When are you willing to invest the time, the money, the energy, the everything, actually, because it goes into every area of your life, to create not only for yourself but for other people, and then be responsible for those people as well and for what you create for them.
Absolutely. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think, yeah, and we talked about this a little bit at the workshop, right? That before we can even talk about target audience, we need to know our why, we need to understand our vision. And really, if our vision is to be in our studio 24/7 and create work for ourselves, that's one thing. And if that's what we want to do, I mean, I have no problem if artists approach me and say, like, I just want to create for the sake of creating. Fine, all the power to you. You know what you want. So don't put yourself in a situation where you're building a business. But if your vision is to have a business with your art, then it means that you're going to have to do certain things to get your work out there and seen and so that it can be bought, right? So how did that come about to you? Why did you make it a priority in your life to be visible and then start connecting with ideal collectors?
I think it came from the aspect of, and this is something that goes through everything I create and who I am as a brand and as a person, is that my art happens in co-collaboration with other people. So even if they don't even know that I'm collaborating with them, I'm emotionally connecting with an idea or a person. And I take huge joy from people finding art that helps them remember who they want to be inside. So we all have this emotion about how we want to feel as a person. And I find that art, like music, for example, helps us re-evoke that and helps us remember that. So when I walk past a painting or a piece of art, it will trigger that association for me of, I wake up and then think, oh yes, that's how I want to feel when I walk past a painting on the way to the bathroom,
Mm-hmm.
And so my art is very much rooted in that desire of enabling my collectors and those who view my art to experience that. And so it was a natural step for me to go into business and to start, because we feel slimy about marketing and we feel slimy about being in business and offering things, and there's a lot of things we need to think about with worth about that. But I have really shifted my mindset and said that I'm doing someone else a favor by being visible. I'm not trying to convince someone to invest in poor me, a little artist who has no money and who's creating all by herself. But I'm a person who has this gift, who is trained in what she does, and now I'm ready to deliver to those who feel extremely excited about what I have to offer. And it's very similar to, if you have a favorite brand and they bring out their new fashion line or whatever, if they bring out their new Nintendo, for example, and you cannot wait till that hits the shelf. And that's the feeling I want artists to have, that other people are not doing you a favor by buying from you. You are doing the world a favor by making your gift available. And those people who appreciate that, they will want to give you their money. They'll be like, yes, I don't have money in the bank, but here, take everything I have.
Mm-hmm.
That's the kind of mindset you have to have, that you are a valuable service provider. You're not just giving them art that you feel kind of ashamed about because, it could have been better, or can I ask that price first? You're giving them an experience. You're giving them this is an extension of how I feel right now, and it makes me feel amazing. And that's what you're doing as an artist. So that's how I then moved into that, because I felt, this is what I want people to feel, and it's my responsibility to make it more visible and more public so those people can find me.
Okay, so those people. So let's jump into that. Those people. So who are we talking about when we're talking about those people? And can you tell us about, because I know you made a very conscious exercise to identify, because you co-create, right, in a certain way, you were very purposeful and you made a very conscious exercise of identifying or deciding, and I'd like you to tell us more about that, like who you wanted to co-create with.
That in itself as well, and anybody who'd be listening or watching here, I'd like to say that this is a process as well, and it's okay if it changes over time.
Absolutely. It's not something that you just put in the books and when you're done for 40 years, right?
Exactly.
It's something that will And that's why I tell artists sometimes you're overthinking this. Just flow with this process. So I love that you started with that. Okay, continue.
Yeah, that's a big important step. Again, as with anything in art, it's a process. Allow yourself to grow with it and to discard elements. And the second thing is, it takes a huge amount of courage to choose a target collector, or your ideal collector, if you will, because doing that means you're consciously letting go of all the other possibilities you have. So, for example, for me, that looked like I, I found out I'm really good at drawing portraits. However, I don't want to draw people's photographs, and I don't want to draw their pets. However, I could make money with that, and I know particularly locally, there would be people who'd want that. And while it can be an off occasion that I will do it, my branding, who I am online, who I am on my cards, and all of my work is not that artist. And it took me courage to say that I'm consciously dropping streams of income to really focus in on my niche, on that one group or that one aesthetic of people who I really want to cater for, because I think that you will know in your heart what that is, because when I think of the things I create for my target audience, they make me feel good inside. They make me feel motivated. That makes me feel, oh, I can't wait to show them what I'm working on right now. Whereas the other one feels fake. It feels like, okay, just like trudge. I'll just, get it over with. I don't feel inspired by that kind of art. And that doesn't mean that doing your ideal work will not feel hard, but it's a different kind of hard. It's a hard that has a real big emotional payoff. And so I decided at one point that I would take that leap and allow myself to really hone in on who that person is, who I want to serve. And I really noticed that my audience are women. So that's already first cut, I'm just slicing off men.
Already 50% of the population is out. Okay.
Exactly. And that doesn't mean that I will not have a male client, or that a boyfriend will buy something from me for his girlfriend, or a father or a brother. But it means that all my messaging is targeted towards women. And then the next step was that it's not just any woman. It's not just age 15 to age 70. It's a very niched, it's the beginning of her 20s up to her 40s. That's the woman's thing. But that doesn't mean, again, that a 50-year-old woman cannot find joy in my work. But it means that I will make references, to video games. I will make references to series that are very up to date, that will maybe talk to that will talk to that audience. And then I went even narrower, because my ideal, the woman who loves my work, she's very interested in literature or in movies and in stories. So she loves anything that has to do with novels, so illustrations. And at the same time, she really loves discovering, doing the emotional work of personal development. So she will be interested in new age content. And so again, here, hedging this, that doesn't mean that every single woman I target has all of that in her, but I've sort of reduced it down to 3 general types of women who I want to serve. And on the one hand, those are then my collectors, and on the other hand, those are other creatives who will be inspired by my journey. And while it's really scary, and this took me a really long time to allow myself to really hedge it down, because I felt I might be missing so much, or there might be publishers who think that that's not professional to serve that kind of audience. But then again, what you have to think is, my ideal audience will get that. Mm-hmm. They will feel that this is a good thing. They will feel spoken to. This will resonate with them. And by knowing that, I can write things where other people will respond and say, oh my God, how did you know? So, for example, recently I wrote something and I said that I like to watch Jamie Oliver's 15 minutes of healthy cooking while eating pizza. And my kind of audience, they get that. You know, they also, they can laugh as well when they hear the quote that when you own more pajamas than stuff to go outside with, it says a lot about you. They will feel that I'm talking about them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's then where you know. So when you start getting the feedback of, oh my God, are you in my head? Or how did you know that? Or this is just scary how much this resonates with me. Then you know you're talking to your people.
Yes.
And ever since I did that, so I really narrowed it down and looked at what elements of what my work reflect that and who does that speak to. Once I got really clear on that, I started getting those messages. And I think that finding your target audience is a lot about growing into yourself, becoming clear on who you are as an artist as well, because I can do a lot of things, but who do I want to be as an artist? I don't want to be the person who draws pets. There are artists who do exclusively that and they're amazing, but it's not me. So that's not what I'm going to deal with. So I cut that off. And that's just this process of elimination until you narrow it down to, so what will people be able to expect from you?
Mm-hmm. So
And
it's really, so what you're saying is really like, finding your ideal collector, getting clear on your vision, and basically your branding as an artist, it all comes together, right? One cannot be like, if it's not all cohesive and coherent, right? People won't get it. People won't get it.
exactly.
And one question I like to ask artists, and it makes them awfully uncomfortable, is what are you going to need to let go of to become the artist you want to be, right? To become the artist you want to be. Because no, you have to let go of things. And sometimes you have to let go of people. Sometimes you need to let go of some mindset, right? Issues that you have so that you can become the artist that you want to be. So, one thing I love of what you were talking about, my background also, that I teach design thinking, and the fact of testing. Sometimes I say we need to test and then iterate and then pivot and then try something new and experiment. And people look at me and they're like, what are you talking about? But here, this is a great example about testing messaging to your audience, right? And seeing who it resonates with, what resonates, why it resonates, and then how can I do more of that to connect even further. Does that resonate with you and your process?
Absolutely. And I think what comes to mind about that for me is to stop being careful.
Yes.
Like, of course, there are artists that work in very high profile work with galleries. They have to have a different kind of aesthetic than I do, but then they have a different audience. So I think for me, the stop being careful was that I still quote Friends, yeah? And there are people who hate Friends, but that's okay, because whenever I drop a line of something that resonates with me, it will connect to someone else. So instead of writing, I have a kick-ass book recommendation for you, I say kick cuckoo because I watched RuPaul's Drag Race, and I love that they say cuckoo instead of ass. And so a person who will read that might think whatever, but the person who will get it, that's like meta communication, that's connecting with someone on a whole different level. And having the courage to show up as who I am, as the glorious mess that I am, but to be professional about it, that's what really helped me get my audience. And that's what really helped me connect to people on a very profound level, because we have to start, because we use words like target audience and ideal collector, but these are people. These are people who are living their lives and who have emotions and stories. And I think when we remember that, it makes all this targeting and all this marketing so much easier, because you're talking to someone else.
Yes, and even like everyone's a human, right? The high-end collector, the super high-end collector, the person who buys on Etsy, we're all humans, right? And we have a tendency to forget that. And if your work, if your dream is to be in a, blue chip gallery, and that's what you're aiming for, changing who you are is not going to help. Right? So
No.
either you need to look at if really that is what you want, right? If there's a disconnect between the art you're creating and what is going on in blue chip galleries right now, well, maybe there's a disconnect between your why and your vision for your art. And then you need to take a step back and say, well, why is it that I want to be in a blue chip gallery, right? Is it because that is really my ideal of success, or that's what I feel society tells me I need to do to, like you said earlier, right, to be really doing the work. Like I'm not a real artist if I'm not there yet, right? So sometimes you need to question ourselves as the underlying why of what we want, right? Because no, not all artists are going to be in high-end galleries. And if your work and your message doesn't resonate with these people, well, who are you trying to kid here? Like, what's going on, right? So either you need to rethink your messaging, rethink what you really want, or just embrace what you're doing and experiment with it and see, just see who it's going to attract, right? But so I just want to take this one step further, because I don't want people who are listening to think that we're super passive. We're passive about it, because we are not. It's not just like, oh, I'm putting message out there and I'm just figuring out who it's going to please, right? So I know you're a person that's very you're very involved, like in engagement. You do a lot of networking, although it might not seem like it, but I know it. Shauna is a very introvert, right? So she's very introvert. So you're not very like person who just wants to be out all night, every night doing networking events, right? So tell us a little bit about, okay, now like you've owned your message, you know who it resonates with, but once you know that, how do you grow it? How has networking, whether it's online, offline, supported your work in growing your audience with the right people?
Okay, so there's two levels I did this on. The one is online and the other is in real life.
In real life, yeah, because online isn't real life. Yes, okay.
So online, what I did was, particularly Instagram has been amazing with this, because on Facebook you can't follow people. Like, you cannot see who liked it and go to them and then just stalk them a little bit. It's a bit harder. So on Instagram, what I really love is...
So you're saying that Instagram is a great tool for stalking?
Yes. Instagram is fantastic for stalking your ideal collector and finding out what that means, but then also to really connect with them. So what I love to do is I look at products that already exist, or artists who work in a similar style, in a similar topic or aesthetic, and then I go to their pages and then I look at who is following them. Or, for example, what you want is engaged people, so people who actually, give a, and what I do to find those people is to actually go into the pictures and then look at who commented.
Great.
And then
okay.
I will go to that person and I will not just go and, oh, heart, amazing heart. I will choose 3 people a day. I will go in, I will look at their Instagram feeds, and I will actually take the time to engage with them. So I will look at things that resonate with me, and I will say, for example, if someone presents a book, I'll be, so can you recommend the book? Or, what are your top 3 takeaways? Or should I buy the book? So you actually talk to them and not just go around spamming everyone with look at my art, or, oh, this is amazing, follow me back or something. Because even though people know that's not what you're supposed to do, they still do that.
Yes.
And it's the worst in Facebook groups as well. And I'd like to just, position this here as someone who is an administrator of one of those groups, spamming Facebook groups, but your art does not get you ideal collectors.
It doesn't get you sales either. So.
Exactly. So it gets you nothing except really annoyed admins.
So I really like what you were saying here, that you're prioritizing the relationship.
Yeah, slow growth. And I know that this is why we work so well, because you're also not about quick fixes.
Mm-hmm.
Building an audience, and I know that people try to promise you, I got 11,000 subscribers in 2 weeks or whatever. And yes,
Yeah.
maybe they did with some weird pyramid scheme, or they've been working on it since 10 years and this is their 15th business. And so they really, kickstarted that process. But you want to have meaningful people, because you can have 5,000 people on your list, and if none of them cares about you, you'll still not have a sale and you still won't have any engagement. So it's better to have, a small list of people who are, just waiting for your next print release, who are waiting for your next video, and who really want to support you. And that makes a big difference. And you're able to survive and sustain yourself and grow and thrive as an artist on a very small list as well. And
absolutely, because and I keep cutting you because there's so many interesting nuggets here that I just want to emphasize. And I know this is not a module on pricing, and I don't want to get into pricing, but here's the thing, right? If you're absolutely right, it's slow growth. You're absolutely right that it had to be about nurturing relationships one by one. And these things take time, but that's how you build a collector base, right? That's why we're not talking about consumers or customers, right? We're talking about a collector base. So, but that also needs to be reflected on your pricing, because all this time that you're spending nurturing collectors and getting, to understand them and getting them on your quotation mark list or whatever it is, community, let's call it community. These things take time, and people won't buy from you necessarily in the minute. So if you're selling your work at such a low price point, and that you need to sell so much, right, to be able to make a decent living, then you're not creating a conducive environment to build those relationships. I don't know if I'm making sense here, but yes.
And also, just think about yourself. When you buy something and it's really cheap, there comes a feeling with that. And so what I like to do is I also ask myself, how do I want my people to feel when they buy from me? And buying a print, for example, so I have three price levels, so that it's really for everyone. And so the print collector is not necessarily the original collector, but they can be. And so I have different price points for what I offer. But then I also take into account that if I were to sell prints for €5, I would not be making a turnaround. But also, how would that then in value be more than a piece of paper? How could that inspire someone to want to frame it? And so I put a lot of effort into the paper I print on, a lot of effort into packaging, and just as a little side thing, for example, my audience is very conscious and aware of the world and the environment. And so she finds it refreshing when she gets prints from me or originals that are packaged in paper and sustainable recycled packaging rather than plastic. So that's a big difference as well. So that's how branding and target audience can translate into how do I price my work, but also how do I deliver my work. There's this real chain of, and you give a course on that, and you did workshops on that as well. It's like from the first time a person connects with you, what journey do they take through your system to arrive at something that they bought from you? And that should feel cohesive.
Yes, the experience, right? We're not just selling an artwork, we're selling an experience, and you said that earlier. So coming back to what we were talking earlier, which is super interesting, tell me about you being an introvert and actually going out there and meeting people in real life.
Yes. in the real life where you have to put on clothes.
Yes, we do.
So, first of all, I'm not a network type of person, so I don't go to explicit network events. Now, I know that these can work for you, particularly if the people who go there are your audience. But in my case, what happens is it's a bit like the real life version of a Facebook group with everybody spamming each other with what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not enough time to really create that connection for me personally. So what I do is I think of who are the people I want to target. So I have to know who that is, and then where could I find them in real life?
Exactly. It's not about going to a cocktail party. People tell me, I don't want to network, Catherine. I hate cocktail parties. I'm like, who said you needed to go to a cocktail party?
Exactly. So what I do is, for example, that's the spiritual pagan element. I connect with yoga instructors. I connect with Reiki practitioners, people who have studios, with other shops, for example, who provide service to the same audience that I cater to. Now, of course, you have to check that they are at a level where they can afford art or where they're interested in art. So they have to have the same kind of um, belief system or value system as you. But that has really helped me. So I go and really go from town to town, and I don't just look at the huge town I live in, but I go through area because otherwise it's overwhelming. So I go one shop at a time or one place at a time. And what I've done as well is I've connected with libraries and bookstores because that's where my people are as well to do events. Like a pajama party in a bookstore where I offered my illustrations as well, and that went really well.
That's so much fun. You see, so you really were able to do things that is aligned with your why, aligned with your audience, aligned with your brand, right? And having fun with it, right? Because if you're showing up and it's obvious you're dreading the experience, like what do you expect is going to come out of it, right? Nobody's going to be excited to meet you.
Exactly. And something that I can give as a tip to people, which it doesn't straight away create a difference, but it does over time, is to, if you have work you can do that you don't mind people watching you do, take it to cafes, take it to places where your people go to, and just create there. Because I've noticed a lot of people will ask me then, oh, what is this about? What are you doing? And then I ask them if they want me to put them on my list.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, that's seeing people who saw me as a person, connected with me and what I was doing, and did that extra step of wanting to be on my list.
Yeah.
And that has really, really been great for me as well. So it's about thinking outside of the box in human terms. Where do your kind of people, where are they? Where do they go to? Do they go to yoga class? Do they go to readings? Do they go to reunions? Where are they? And then be there.
And I can already hear people listening and saying, well, I don't know. Well, just try something, right? Maybe I'm sure, Shauna, that you've been in certain places that you've tried something and it didn't work out for you. And
Absolutely.
And then and you don't do it again. You try something else, right? Why is everybody in such a big hurry? And that was one of the questions I wanted to ask you about now that you're working also with artists and creatives and helping them just move forward in their creativity. Those of them that you see that what they're doing, like, do you see sometimes mistakes when people are thinking about identifying their ideal collector, or what do you see as maybe the biggest mistakes, or that you're just like, maybe you should try to do it this way instead of doing it this way, that you learn from your experience?
As I explained before, the biggest thing is probably being too general, not having the courage or taking the time to sit down and really say, who is this for? And that doesn't mean you can't have 3 or 4 websites that target different people. But my general thing is, how many things can you connect with one emotional red thread that it's cohesive to the people? And as soon as you can't connect those anymore, that's when you need the next website. or the next
Mm-hmm.
platform. So don't be too general. Allow yourself to go as small as possible in your niche, because that's really when you are clear on that, you connect extremely well, because then you know what magazines they're reading, which bath bomb are they buying in the Lush store. You know that
Mm-hmm.
they even go to the Lush store. That's the
Yeah.
kind of thing. You know which brands they support, and that's a big thing. So as soon as you know that, um, by going smaller and more specific, and that's probably the biggest thing I see people doing.
Mm-hmm.
Then also the mindset that they are doing you a favor when you market, and then people are too afraid to post what they're doing on Facebook or Instagram, or they're scared that their newsletter will be annoyed when they write to them. And that's where I think you have to have the mindset shift to say, whoever feels annoyed, good for them. Leave. Here's the door. I'll unsubscribe you myself. You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, to stop being afraid of getting feedback that people don't like it.
Absolutely. You think Picasso, everybody liked him? Definitely not. You think Andy Warhol, everybody liked him? Nope. And they were, well, they were fine with it. We don't know if they were fine with it or not. They looked like they were fine with it. And that's what gave them, the edge to continue and be appreciated by a certain number of people who helped them get to the next level, right? So I love what you're saying here. It's so much, yeah.
Maybe one big thing
Yeah.
as well is, once you have your audience, I think the biggest mistake people do is being too afraid to connect with them about your work. And I know this personally because I've taken a while to realize how to change that. They will not ask. It's always like, ask your audience what they want, and people are like, yeah, but they're not answering, or I don't have an audience. But there are enough blogs where in the forums you can read what people want. And you can
Mm-hmm.
find on Amazon reviews on books what people want. And you can find, you can find what people want. And as soon as you have a group of people, include them in your process. Make them feel special. And I think that's a big thing of really treating your collectors as VIPs by how you treat them and how you engage with them. And by offering them the opportunity. For example, I'm creating 2 illustrations for autumn, and I had 6 ideas. And instead of saying, okay, here's what I'm doing, I went to my Facebook page and asked them, so which 2 would you like to see? Because
Mm-hmm.
not only does that make them feel like their opinion matters, which it then does, but it also kind of primes them a little bit to want to see it and then maybe even buy it.
Yes, you're pre-validating your idea before, so then you can create with purpose, right? You're creating with purpose because you pre-validated, there's people who are interested, right? So some artists ask me, they have an idea for a stream of income, and they ask me what I think of it, and I'm like, what does it matter what I think of it, right? Because of course I can give you insight, but what does your audience think of it? Well, I don't know. Well, let's ask them, right? Or do you think it's too much that I'm sending a newsletter every month? Or what should I put in my newsletter? I don't know. Well, of course, I can share with you best practices, but every audience is different, right? If you're catering to designers, if you're catering to gallery owners because you want to get into a gallery, if you're selling direct and your work are prints, or if they're, outdoor sculptures, like it's going to be very, very different because your creative process is different, the people you're talking to is different. So, but if you're not engaging and asking the market, right, and everybody's doing that, they're testing the market in every other industry, why shouldn't artists do it also, right? So yeah,
Because that ties into yours,
yeah.
is what I see a lot of people do, and this is now the difference between I do art as a hobby and I like people admiring it, and art as a business. Don't train your audience to not expect to get a sale. Okay, I'm not sure if I said that properly, but make them used to the fact that there will be offers, and make those regularly. Show your work. Put it into your Facebook with the price attached. Tell them where they can find your shop. Make it a point of having your shop button, and even if it's empty, on your website. and train your audience to know that this is what they can expect from you as well. Not sleazy marketing and sales, but authentic. Here's what I have. Would you like to have it? And then to really do that, because I find a lot of people then have audiences that expect all this amazing free content, and as soon as they send one tiny ask, please buy this from me, they have 20 unsubscribes. Because people then say, oh no, I'm not gonna, they didn't have a mindset about you.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it starts from within, right? It starts from within. It starts from you. You need, before you can even train others, you need to train yourself on selling, yes, right? And then you train others, because nobody's upset when they subscribe to Banana Republic that they're getting offers. Nobody's upset when they subscribe to the list of their local restaurant and they're getting an offer. So why should they be upset if they're subscribing to a list of an artist and they're getting offers? If they are, they really didn't get it, and you shouldn't give them any time of day, any space in your life. So let go. What do you need to let go of? You need to let go of these people so that you can grow as the artist you want to become, right? Listen, we've been talking, and this has been super interesting, Shauna, but I think there are a lot of takeaways here, and people who listen to this, I encourage you to listen to it again, because if there's one thing that I'm taking away from this conversation is engagement, right? Don't be afraid of engaging with people, talking to them, listening to what they have to say, getting insight, right? That this is not a one-time, one-shot deal exercise, but it's ongoing as your practice evolves. And there's no such thing as not knowing who these people are. You just have, it's not up to them. We're not being passive here and just waiting and seeing what's going to come to us, but rather us, I talk about that a lot. Like, you get to decide who you want to work with, right? It's not just like, oh, I don't know who likes my art. No. Who are you creating your art for? And just show up in front of these people, right? That's a good place to start. And it's not easy. I'm sure there are days that you don't want to do that, right? No. Like, it's not like it's super easy. It's not always easy for me. I don't know any artist who finds it easy. I don't know any entrepreneur who finds that easy. But if it were easy, everybody would be doing it. And there's no magic recipe, right? We just need to show up, be consistent, do the work.
And be authentic as well. Yeah. I think that's the key here.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again, Shauna. This was an amazing conversation. Thank you for being so honest and open in answering those questions, because I know so many artists think, like, when I'm talking, they're like, yeah, that's easy for you to say. So having an artist who really opens up, I know not all artists are willing to share their process with the world or with other artists. So I very much appreciate you taking the time to join us today. So if artists want to know a little bit about what is it that Shauna does, or Cat the Pillar, where can they find you?
So they can find me either on my website at www.catthepillar.com.
Okay, why don't you spell that out for us?
Yeah, so let's see if I can spell. CATDEPILLER.com.
Perfect. So they can find you on your website. They can also find you on Facebook and Instagram.
Exactly. And they're all linked to each other. So if you find me on one place, you'll find me on the others. And it's always the same name.
Perfect. And if you're on the Artist Entrepreneur Network, then just tag Shauna if you have questions, Shauna Bennis, and she can direct you to her several resources and to her art. Okay, thank you again, Shauna. And well, wishing you all a great day, and have fun with it, people. If that's the last word that I want to say, it's like, this is not supposed to be dreadful. This is supposed to be fun. So engage with people you have fun with, and they will have fun with you. Okay, see you later, everyone. Bye-bye.